What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. But wait! We got something really cool to show! Look at this! Incredible! Amazing! Absolutely breath-defying... Breath-defying, is that even a word? Artwork! This has been drawn by Casey, also known as HeIsTheReverend on Twitter. All the links are going to be down in the description below. I actually got to see the portfolio online that they posted on Twitter and Pixiv and stuff. And oh my god, it looks so good. Give them a gander, please. Thanks so much, Casey, for this amazing, beautiful work of art in my emails. And sorry I didn't get to see it on Twitter earlier. I kind of don't get on there too much as Morrow. But with the eyes are blessed by lovely artwork, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Death by Boss Fight by Bowen. Sup, Morrow? The game was Shadow the Demon Lord. Sup, Morrow? Send a story to Crispy, but I thought you'd get a kick out of it. The game was Shadow the Demon Lord. Shadow is a grimdark fantasy game with heavy emphasis on corrupting influence of evil and mechanics for madness and insanity. Through these mechanics that are relevant to this story. Something else to note is that the player characters in Shadow do not start at level 1, rather than start at level 0. PCs go through a starting adventure, as this is how you start your career as adventurers and came together as a group. Those who survive go to level 1 and pick a class. I was the GM for this adventure with 4 other players. We're playing a starting adventure with the following concept. The party is in a hamlet called Asylum that has been suffering from a drought for over a year. Something is wrong though. Bodies are starting to appear around town, all of them completely dried up like raisins. The module states that the adventure is complete when the players discover and put an end to what is causing these killings. Before we get into the horror part of the story, let's explain the contents of the game that led up to it. The game took place over 2 in-game days. In the morning of both days, a body was found. Both bodies have the same characteristics. No possession missing from the person, not even money, and no moisture in the bodies. The player's investigation reveals that both persons had been seen near the town well the night before the body was found. One person in town told them that they had seen a glowing woman crawl out of the well a week ago, had been hearing laughter coming from the well for about a month. With all this evidence, the players decided that the best course of action was to climb down the town well and see that they can find, before heading down, they give some equipment from the watchman of the town and the mayor, a suit of mail, an axe, and some healing potions. This is an incredibly important detail to remember. The players are basically just commoners at this point. Aside from axe 1d6+1, they had knives 1d3, yes, you read that right, for weapons. No one had any armor except for the single suit of mail and no class abilities. The average health point of the party was a 10 to 11. The highest defense in the party came from the male 15. Aside from that, 10 to 11. This is like playing Peasant Simulator, but just like hardcore Peasant Simulator. They don't even have classes or anything, and suddenly they just basically have to try to scrounge together whatever they can with whatever weapons and armor they have. They basically come with no supplies whatsoever. I don't think players are going to survive this, honestly. This is where the horror story begins. At the bottom of the well, the players find a small tunnel that leads into a stone dungeon. The party doesn't have to wander very far before they run into the massive spider. The fight takes very longer than it should have due to multiple bad rolls from both sides. After the fight, the noise from the fight attracted the creature, causing the trouble around the town. The laughter in the well, a demon. The creature attacked almost immediately, striking one character for 11 damage. In Shadow, if you take damage equal to or greater than your maximum health in a single strike, you die. So one character was slain instantly. The rest of them turned and ran farther into the dungeon, intent on escaping the demon. It is at this point that I noticed this demon is insanely powerful for a group of level 0 characters, with a very high defense, double the party's average health, really high attack modifier, and terrifying ability that triggers it rolls over 20 on attacks, which it did often due to multiple high attack modifiers. Is this supposed to be like a sadomasochism simulator? Because it kind of feels like it, where the players are just starting off with level 0 as peasants in a fight against something as horrifying as this. Not only do they fight a spider, but there's something worse than a spider. Literally a demon that they have to fight that's clearly overpowered. Another character triggers the terrifying ability from an opportunity attack as they run. They hit and are not slain instantly and are forced to make a strength check. They fail and start withering, taking 1d6 damage at the end of each round. Becoming incapacitated from the damage just kills you. So this character died at the end of that same round. Not even past round 1 of combat with the demon and 2 PCs are dead. It was at this point that I realized that unless I added something to this dungeon to get them out of this, we're facing a TPK. So that's what I did. The next room they ran into had a massive ritual circle on the floor. One player tried to decipher what kind of spell had been used while the others tried to barricade the door. They succeeded, but succumbed to the withering effect they had placed on them from an opportunity attack and died at the end of the round. Only one PC is left alive now. Thankfully, this brought the surviving character enough time to figure out how to use the ritual circle and banish the demon just as it broke through the door. Everyone still had fun, but this understandably killed the possibility of turning this one-shot into a campaign on part of nearly everyone being dead. Yeah, you needed people to actually have player characters that are alive, unless it's somehow brought back. Maybe defeating the demon causes everybody to come back. I don't know, is that too anime? That might be a little too anime, maybe a little too high fantasy. But yeah, if everybody is dead, yeah, I don't think you can really continue it. You probably just have to start a brand new character, a brand new adventure, maybe at level 1 at least. And that's it. No bad players, no scheduling conflicts, just a ridiculously hard borderline impossible boss fight taken from a published adventure module. Also, in case you're wondering, yes, the players did have to kill the demon in order to complete the adventure. Not all of Shadow the Demon Lord is like this, and as I found out afterwards that the starting adventure I picked was regarded as one of, if not, the hardest starting adventures ever in this game. But then again, in a spirit of grimdark, it is very brutal and difficult to survive in this game. Hope you got a kick out of this story and have a fantastic day. Yeah, honestly, there wasn't too much of an RPG horror story there. I guess at the end of the day, it might be good to read ahead of time and look for ratings and reviews for when you're looking for a first-time adventure or like a one-shot to turn into an actual campaign. I mean, you could always just run one of the other ones that are easier and not difficult with a demon that's overpowered to fight and everything. You know, maybe just to get the players encouraged to want to keep their characters and actually stay alive. But hey, good thinking on trying to turn things around and actually allowing players to succeed. Even if one player gets to succeed. Still, let's continue with the rest of RPG horror stories we have for today. D&D horror story, I Might Be Cursed by Evil Author. Mr. Morrow, I Might Be Cursed. I've been playing with a dedicated group online via Discord and Roll20. The server was owned by a forever DM and anyone could run a campaign if they wanted. My DM started treating me overly harshly. Fantasy racism that no one else in the party faced, not even the sorcerer, who was both playing the same species and was also my character's sister. Punished for the same actions other players were rewarded for, and so on. Spoke to the DM privately about it. She denied it at first, but I later realized she was punishing me in her game for actions that happened in a different campaign where we were both players. Apparently she wanted to like the other game better since I engaged more with the other DM and was being petty. We fought privately for a few weeks, but she called me selfish for not wanting to play D&D the day after my grandma died. So I don't want to play with her at all anymore. What? They got mad at you? You just had a family passing. Sorry, DM, they're not exactly in the mood for mad at you over something like this or something petty like potentially, God forbid, you enjoy a different game that is being DM'd by a different DM. So petty of them. Specifically a biggest sin to get mad at you, but just not be in the mood after you had family passing, but to get mad at you as well and to specifically take it out on you because God forbid you're enjoying a different game. All the humanity, all the horror. Imagine my shock if my players, let's say for example, played. Actually no, I do have a player. He's playing Pathfinder right now with some other buddies. I don't get mad at him for playing that. Let him enjoy Pathfinder. Let him just enjoy and have fun. Let people enjoy things and have a good time. God forbid people enjoy things that's not involved with you. I feel like this is the kind of DM that makes things everything about themselves and gets really upset as soon as they get ignored in some capacity. The DM ran the session without me and nuked her own campaign, ending the story early in a tantrum, so I didn't need to officially drop. The other campaign ended naturally and I believe we got a good ending, but I haven't played with the group since. After the meltdown, I took a break for a few months before signing up to join in a person game at my local gaming store. The store was close enough to my home that I could theoretically walk there in nice weather, so it was the ideal location. It was technically going to be a paid game, but only in that everyone was going to pay an equal share to rent a table at the store. Before the session 0 could be done, store owner announced the store would be closing down to relocate to a new location. DM opted to hold out the session 0 until we knew where the store would be moving. Next town over, and everyone has a car? Fantastic! Except the new location didn't have a parking lot and was street parking only. It was a neighborhood where no one felt safe. No one questioned the DM when he decided he didn't want to run the game after all. I never even made my character for that one. Now my recent experience. In March, I signed up for my first Pathfinder game. GM wanted to run a beginner-friendly module designed to teach people the game. So many people signed up, she opted to run 2 games on alternating weeks. It was fantastic. Without discussing it ahead of time, everyone's character was kinda matched and the group chemistry at session 0 was wonderful. No one even minded playing every other week. Until May, when I couldn't make a session due to a surprise family visit. We didn't run that week because of it. 2 weeks later, another player had to call out an hour before session because one of their co-workers had rage quit mid-shift and now they suddenly had to work late. It looked like we were finally having a session again after 40 days of not playing, but one of the players apologetically had to drop the game. GM said it was fine, we were at a good point to exit the dungeon to rest and we could introduce new players before going back in. but what was supposed to be the new player's first session ended up getting cancelled due to GM getting sick. The other group had finished the module, so my group could theoretically play weekly now, but we haven't played since April 23rd. And I'm starting to wonder if we ever will again. An unfortunate set of circumstances, and I really feel bad for you, but hopefully things can be picked up again. I don't know. If this doesn't work out, don't give up, because at the end of the day, no D&D is better than bad D&D, and you're not dealing with bad D&D per se, it's just scheduling. It's just the most miserable thing out there. Scheduling sucks, and sometimes when you have to push things back and stuff, you have to delay things further and further. Scheduling is the biggest world boss out there when it comes to playing TTRPGs, that it's always going to be such a ball buster to deal with every single turn. But I wish you good luck, and I hope you find some games out there that you can play, or maybe this current Pathfinder game can pick up the steam again and get going again, you know, without delays and everything. But if not, hopefully find another game out there, or heck, start your own with some buddies. I don't know. I wish you good luck though. I hope you find yourself some good games out there to play and enjoy yourself. And once again, screw the DM that was petty in the beginning there, especially over your grandmother's death, dude. That is so messed up. Alright, let's continue to the next story for today. DM makes PCs literal demigods that makes up dice rolls in order to pose us a challenge. Hey, I'm Morrow. Been watching your videos for quite a while now. Actually just came here from watching your latest mail submission video. After watching a bunch of other RPG horror story YouTubers, I certainly gotta say that your commentary just gives those stories a more personal touch. I also appreciate that you don't just cover D&D, but VTM stories as well, which will become relevant just in a bit, trust me. Anyway, huge fan and all. Keep up the good work, bro. Oh, yeah, you're making me blush. You gave me too much credit, honestly. I'm just a dumb tiefling on the internet. I meant to send this story a couple months ago already, but somewhere in the midst of typing, I kind of lost the plot and forgot to continue, so consider this take 2. Our story begins with a freshly turned 19 me, excitedly joining a game of Vampire the Masquerade, 5th edition. I was enamored with this setting back then, and still are. Played the games, watched the videos, and being familiar with D&D and fantasizing about all the different kinds of characters I could play, decided it was ultimately time to experience the RPG firsthand. Before I go on, just let me say that this first year of our campaign, I really had a blast. I had no complaints aside from some icky representations of some minority adjacent NPCs, mostly just the DM doing accents, cliches, and whatnot. We had a few players come and go, different stories all in all, but with those who stood, we could see a real dynamic starting to form. Our characters played off each other, had inside jokes, and generally speaking, I don't think I ever had such a good time in a roleplay up to that point. But problems began later on with the DM, becoming a bit of a problem player whenever me or a friend would take his seat to host one-shots, and later on even entire story arcs within the same campaign ourselves. The friend and I were inexperienced, and thus a little lenient on granting his characters in-game benefits for what we considered good roleplay and effort towards reaching his goals. He had military-grade weaponry and vehicles, explosives, goons working on him, and an unsolicited amount of blood bags, which, to be fair, we and the other players had also access to, just to a lesser extent. Again, I fully recognize that it was our mistake for just handling those out willy-nilly. I can't see the word goon or goons again. The internet has rotted my brain clean. Thing is, once me and the other part-time DM caught wind that he was starting to outscale the rest of the group by quite a bit and tried bringing it up, he started becoming argumentative. You guys had the same opportunities. You're just looking for a reason to nerf my character again. I don't care if the magic tome was intended for Necromancer. I don't care that Necromancy is the only thing she's uniquely good at. I won't let her decide how to level my character. This isn't D&D, popular argument among vampire players. That sort of stuff. Eventually we became so tired with his antics that we just gave up on talking sense to him altogether. He won Vampire, so what? But do you really win Vampire when you become so argumentative? Like, if you just stand like this and stand your ground on such petty things of like, oh, I don't care if this magical item was meant for the Necromancer character, I'll take it for myself and do whatever I want because everybody had equal opportunity. Because the storyteller knows more about the game, knows the ins and outs, and is just using your inexperience to try to gain the system and basically grind themselves a bunch of benefits and stuff, kind of is a really crappy thing of them to do. I understand somebody is like a forever DM or forever storyteller, I guess, in this situation. But when you're playing as a player, you would think that you would play as fairly as a player and not just be like a power gamer or something. If a forever DM becomes a power gamer or becomes a problem player, then maybe they should probably stay as a forever DM, because what they're doing right now is just power gaming the system without letting anybody have any kind of lenient benefit. A lenient player would be like, yeah, okay, that's fair. I should probably share some of the rewards and not just hoard everything to myself, because it's a fair thing to do. Also, the argument of this is in D&D, kind of a stupid argument. Like, it's the same thing as looking at a breakfast and saying, this isn't a breakfast sandwich, this is eggs. So, doesn't mean you can make a mess of it. He also just had the whole, I could take on the entire group if I really wanted to attitude, which he actually followed up on, as I was told by my friend. Apparently he reached out to her and sent private messages during sessions describing how he was planning to sabotage my character as retaliation for sliding him marginally a few sessions earlier. This is the kind of play you don't want to play with, man. This is not the kind of play you want to play with. If they're actively plotting against other players and stuff, you don't want to play with this kind of person. We literally just had a story about DMs basically plotting downfall of players. You don't want to play with somebody that's going to be doing that. You want to play with somebody that wants to play with you, not against you. Because PvP, especially DMs or storytellers or whoever they are, if they're going against the rest of the players and the rest of the party, you don't want to play with somebody like that, because they're playing in a PvP us against them kind of mentality. That's not what TTRPGs should be about. At least most TTRPGs that I know are all cooperative. There might be some that are PvP oriented, but I feel like in PvP it's just easier to do it through a video game than a TTRPG. What could possibly have pissed him off that much, you may ask? Well, my character sold drugs to one of the goons who've been trying to keep their addiction a secret, something my character could relate to, being an addict themselves. In return, he came up with a backup plan to kill all of my ghouls while trying to drive customers out of the nightclub my character was owning. In hindsight, it was kinda obvious, as he did hold a session 0.1 discussing player boundaries on PvP, for no specific reasons, of course. Although that was not enough to break our group apart just yet though, let me instead describe our final session. First, little context. Characters in VTM don't work with levels, which they get to spend on increasing certain spells directly. Usually DMs are supposed to hand one out, maybe 2 XP per session. When creating NPCs, the strongest the book recommends are characters with 70 XP at max. We're playing for 2 years of semi-weekly basis and somehow managed to accumulate more than 300 XP, handed out in generous batches of 20 to 30 at a time. We weren't complaining, of course, as we got new powers to play around with. However, we felt that our power level for some reason was starting to decline. The evening began with our character stranded on an island, not far off the town our campaign was playing at. A storm made travel by boat impossible, and the train going back to mainland got destroyed in an encounter with a monster my character had. The basic gist was that there was a murder cult on an island, luring young vampires to turn them into some sort of flesh beast, a Vazd for those familiar. I ran back to the group and we caught up with a battle plan. To our surprise, it seems to have gone out pretty well. We were able to fend off a couple of cultists, leaving only those with the flesh monsters and a couple of unrelated vampire assassins who were out to get our butts from previous adventure. From here on though, things started to go downwards. Our characters were landing good hits, tons of crits, and performing about as well as a bunch of 300 plus XP demigods possibly could. Maybe this is a good point to mention that for quite some time at this point of the campaign, our group had become a bit wary of dice rolls with his DM. Whenever our characters tried to sneak around, enemies had sensed the unseen. Whenever we tried to employ any form of mind control, the enemies conveniently were in possession of the powerful, unswayable mind. Whenever we tried showing off our charisma stats and social skills, we happened to be nothing but unimportant newborns. And this is where the storyteller is basically setting you guys up for failure. I don't know what these features do, but reading through them, I could probably guess what some of them are. Let me look over here. This book is not real. I actually got the story pulled up right here in my virtual space. But for things like sense the unseen, makes sense. They're able to just sense you even though you have high sneak. Be able to have unswayable mind when you're trying to mind control. Probably so that you can use mind control. Like the whole point to be a vampire, I would think, is if you build like a sneaky mind control charismatic vampire, is to be sneaky and mind control, unless you're like some sort of a brute or something, or a specialist. Then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of being sneaky if enemies can detect you, and mind control when nobody can be mind controlled. And if your charisma can be worked out, if you have the risk for it, but it constantly just ruled as the DM as, oh, you're just uncharismatic and stuff, and just a fledgling pup or whatever they like to use. Basically, storytellers setting you guys up for failure, and that's not fun at all. We could all tell things were off, and over time, we just felt discouraged to actually use any of our abilities. No matter how good we rolled, the enemies rolled better. No matter how strong we became, there was always a bigger fish. As a DM myself, I get that I can sometimes be difficult to put players in front of a challenge, but the answer to a strong vampire simply can't always be a better vampire. But I'm digressing. Yes, we rolled well, but barely seemed to be making any progress on taking down the beast. Quite the opposite. Turned out, as it became apparent, the DM wanted us to flee from the monster rather than fight it, despite the stab block of the book suggesting that it should have been dead after round 2. But truth be told, we simply couldn't be bothered to care anymore. We knew that nothing we did was about to change anything. Running away wasn't going to change anything either, knowing that we wouldn't get better opportunity to fight the damn thing. One character got shot into torpor despite stating multiple times that she was standing behind cover. Another got mauled by the beast while insisting upon that they had tried to keep distance from them at any given time. While my character's blood got boiled alive during the chase by one of the assassins via ritual, which, rules as written, wouldn't even have worked from a distance. The DM kept making offhanded comments about how it's our own burial for choosing to fight, and even openly shamed new player for not knowing how she could heal herself. You could tell by the tone of his voice how he was getting his rocks off with each new player knocked into torpor. How insistent he was on describing the monster as fearsome and powerful. Sounds like somebody just gloating over being able to just take you guys out, because of course, as a DM and storyteller or GM, of course you can make your monster the most unkillable thing or overpowered thing ever. But are you doing it just to stroke your ego, being like, ha, 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 look at my powerful monster. It's so powerful, so much better than the player characters. How boring is that? Imagine playing as a kind of DM that plays against the players and want to just cheer and root and set them up for failure instead of cheering them in a moment of trouble and strife. When I put up my players against a boss fight, I put them up because I want them to win, because I want to put them up against a tough challenge and see how they handle the situation, but I'm doing it because I want them to win. I'm cheering my players on. I don't like when my bosses crit my players, because that clearly puts players in a tough position. I don't want to be the kind of DM that gloats over players dying or getting hurt or being screwed over. I want to see my players succeed and cheer them on at every step of the way. I want to be able to cheer them on, be able to support them and encourage them in any way that I can, because I want them to succeed. A DM that doesn't want you to succeed is not a good DM to play with whatsoever. You really should be avoiding this kind of DM at all times. Long story short, the session ended with everyone knocked out. My friend, however, went on to message the DM a couple of days later privately, describing her personal grievances with the latest session and the campaign in general as of recently. The DM did not react positively. I didn't get the exact details, but apparently they ended up having a fight over text until late in the night. It ended with the DM sending a huge message in the server, stating the campaign was going to hiatus for some time, and that it met his ears that some of us did not have the greatest time with the latest session. Such people were free to share their criticisms, and oh boy did they! In the end, more than half the group, who all formed a similar opinion independently, I may mention, ended up writing one or few paragraphs of carefully phrased, well-thought-out criticism. We shared our frustrations without putting overly much blame on him, expressed feelings conflicted about being given large amount while being expected to flee from otherwise trivial fight, and gave advice on how to challenge players in new creative ways while letting them excel at the things they want to be good at. Shoot your monks and all. None of us even brought up any of the concerns with his behavior as a player. We genuinely thought this might be a turning point, showing we care about the well-being of the campaign. His response, banning and blocking all of us without any further notice. We were surprised to say the least, though I suppose it had become apparent that he wasn't the most susceptible to criticism. Oh, God forbid, criticism, oh no, ban all the players, block out criticism, how dare players give me criticism, even though I clearly asked for criticism myself. God, this DM sucks. Is it DM or storyteller? Are you using DM, or you just mean like DM as in like storyteller? Are you using DM like as a global coverall term, or did you guys just use DM as storyteller? I guess maybe at the end of it doesn't matter. DM, GM, storyteller, honestly it doesn't matter. You're just the person running the games, so honestly it doesn't matter. Yeah, use whatever term you want at the end of the day. I'm just being nitpicky for no reason. At least the story get a happy ending. All of us players ended up starting a new campaign, though we decided it was best to start from scratch again. As much as we've grown to love these characters, we couldn't just take off where we left from. All in one, I'm just glad none of us have to worry about the DM's antics ever again. I know there were times where we lied just as much as in the wrong, and I do admit that I've sometimes been antagonistic towards the DM as well. But ultimately, I just think moving on is better for both sides. If you do end up using this story for a video or anything, could you refer to me as the author as J. Cloudberry? That's the handle I go by most places online anyway. Thanks. Funny you mentioned Cloudberry. I have a hag in my campaign literally named Lady Cloudberry. It's just a really good name. Small world. Anyway, thank you so much, Jay, for submitting your story. I appreciate you so much. And this is a story about the DM literally choosing to be some sort of sadomasochist, just gloat over players, be like, look at these pathetic players. I'm supposed to be playing with them, but I'm gonna play against them and make them face against impossible odds and watch them struggle and squirm in my personal pleasure. Those are the kind of DMs you don't want to play with. Don't play with DMs that are antagonistic, and if they are being antagonistic, it might be good to call this stuff out early on, especially if you start noticing it early on. Catching signs of your DM going against your players or yourself as a player. I'm not saying to be suspicious of everybody out there. Obviously, don't immediately start like a witch hunt in your servers or Westmarch servers or whatever about specific DMs that are antagonistic to you, or start assuming that every DM is going to be antagonistic to you. These RPG horror stories are exception. They're outliers. They're not the rule. They're not what's going to be happening every single time for for every single thing out there, but at the end of the day, it still would be really good to know and catch signs when you DM, GM, or storyteller, or whatever, you're a great arbiter of the game. Whenever they're being antagonistic against you and trying to pin against you instead of playing with you. And now that I said the word arbiter, I'm thinking of Arbiter from Halo 3. Word. Sorry, brain rot, and I'm recording this at 2 a.m. Anyway, I'm sorry that you had to deal with such a thing, and I'm glad that hopefully, maybe one day the DM of the story will take your feedback that you guys gave to heart and actually become better, but knowing how they reacted with just banning a block in everybody, probably not. They probably live with the entire reality in their head, like, I've never done anything wrong, it's my players that are wrong, how dare they criticize me? God forbid, criticism, scary, ooh, seriously, it's so stupid. Anyway, thanks so much for your story submission, I appreciate you. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.